Crows Club presents B-Side Breakdown.
Hey everyone, welcome to the B-Side Breakdown. My name is Brett Johnson and I am your host. This is episode 43 of a podcast where I talk with other artists, musicians, and songwriters about a song they've written that is meaningful to them and that they want to chat with me about and get deep into the why behind it. But first, I need to get permission from them to play the song in its entirety on this episode so you, the listener, have some idea of what we're talking about. Today I'm going to be talking with Travis Omilian from the band Banquets about the song Goodbye Before You Go. So let's get into it. Here is Goodbye Before You Go by Banquets.
Fixing to make a fire somewhere out there and all that dark and all that cold. I knew that whenever I got there, he'd be there. Then I woke up.
All right, and that was Goodbye Before You Go by Banquets. We're going to take a quick break and come back, and we're going to talk with Travis Omilian from the band about the song and everything that Banquets is working on, so stay with us. Hey everyone, it's Brett again with the B-Side Breakdown. I just want to say, if you want to hear these episodes without any ads, please go to patreon.com/B-Side Breakdown and become a subscriber to our Down for the Cause tier. It's $5 a month. You get all of the episodes ad-free in advance, and it's just a great way to show your support for this labor of love. Anyway, please head over to patreon.com/B-Side Breakdown. Thanks, we'll be right back. All right, and we are back. Let's bring in Travis from the band Banquets to talk about the song Goodbye Before You Go. Hey, Travis, thank you so much for taking some time today to talk with me about the song.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Brad. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I was looking up, I always do some, cursory digging to see what I can find out about some of the bands and specifically new songs like this. I saw that this record just released. This just came out October 17th. Is this, and this is a full record, not just a single, right?
Yes, this is a full record. it's our first record in 10 years.
Okay.
We took a big hiatus for a while
Yeah.
to sober up and kind of live our life a little bit away from selling a van and just
Sure.
like doing the thing. So it was first record in 10 years. Felt good coming back. Very exciting, but we can get into it.
Yeah, no, that's great. So tell me about why particularly did you want to talk about Goodbye Before You Go?
This is a cool song because, or in my opinion, it's a cool song.
Yeah.
I'd give it a 6 out of 5 stars.
Of course.
So the song itself is pretty neat because I tried some different things with it when I was putting it together, when I was writing it. Lyrically, it's really a stream of consciousness. It the basic meaning behind it is it's about my dog in
Okay.
my perspective. However, the way I usually approach topics or approach lyrics in general is I try to make them a little more abstract. This way, everybody can kind of have their own perspective on it, make
Sure.
their own meaning to it. I always love bands like At the Drive-In,
Mhm.
that just, very stream of conscious. Brendan from Lawrence Arms, he does this a lot with his lyrics as well. It makes it easier for an audience to kind of pick up and make their own meaning to it, or, have something more meaningful come to them out of it. Like I said, it's about my dog, and of course, it is tough to let pets go.
Yeah.
Like in some cases, it's harder to let a pet go than a human,
True.
just because they are so innocent. They are they become a part of our lives, and it's my appreciation for my dog. When my wife approached me with like getting a dog, I was very much, it's like, no, that's going to change my way of life. I can't stay home all the time. I can't do this. I can't do this. And, of course, within a week, I was just like, yeah, this is the life.
Right. Right.
But,
No.
you know,
Yeah. No, and thank you for sharing that because, right, to your point, I mean, I drew my own conclusions about it and I was relating it to something different, but no, I wouldn't have gleaned from the lyrics that you were talking about a pet, or a
y-
dog. I don't mean to minimize it or trivialize it by saying just a pet. I mean, I understand it's now
yeah.
when I look at that context, I mean, when I had to put my dog down a few years ago, I'm just like, oh man, it's like the
Oh, I
worst
know.
day that you ever can deal with. But, in thinking that, and reading it from that lens, it's also nice to see the lyrics from that perspective. And to all the listeners who don't know, if you go to Banquets Bandcamp page where they have Goodbye Before You Go, and if you buy the record on Bandcamp Friday where they get all the money, you can also see the lyrics to the song as well. So it's helpful to kind of follow along with it. But
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
It's tough because, I try to enunciate as much as I can, but it's tough, and punk, you like kind of, you can't tell what everybody's always saying.
well, for sure.
I
And
try to
once
be
that,
clear, but I say some weird words.
love it. No, and it's great. And I love the innocence in a sense. That's pretty great. that's,
Yeah, I've
that's
always
one of
been
my
like,
favorites.
I try to kind of like, I'm a word whittler, if you
Sure.
will. I really try to be like, to think about it. And with this record in particularly, I spent a lot of time at the kitchen counter just with an acoustic guitar, just figuring out melodies and some of that wordplay, which I always appreciated. When you can read the lyrics and be like, oh wow, this is like a totally different song than what I thought it was. Like you
Right.
can get more meaning out of it. But I also saw, I was thinking about it on the way home today because I'm thinking about this song and everything, and I was like, oh shit, I remember when I watched that episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, and they had the Living Wake.
Oh,
I don't know if
sure.
you're if you watch, but essentially a guy has a wake for himself while he's still alive, and he's
Right.
hiding behind one of those like see-through glass mirrors, and he's watching all these people pay homage to him while he's still alive. And I remember seeing that and saying to my wife, like, "Oh, that seems cool to see everybody like kind of missing me, even though I'm still here." It's like, what a pretentious move. I love it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, for sure. For sure. So speaking of the instrumentation of it, so tell me a little bit more about Banquets. You said that you took a 10-year hiatus. It looks like you're all from Jersey City, New Jersey, or the band is based there. Has that always been true, or have you moved around at
Um,
all?
Essentially, we were when we first started. Three-fourths of us lived in Jersey City at the time when we started. Since 2010, we've all like kind of moved elsewhere. I currently live in Highland Park, New Jersey, which
O-
is like right over the bridge from New Brunswick.
Okay.
Brian, our drummer, lives in Verona, New Jersey, which is up north by Montclair and Bloomfield. And then Chris, our bassist, lives out by Dallas, Texas.
Oh, got it.
And yep, and Dave Frenzen, our lead guitarist, was living in Buffalo until a month ago. He moved to Florida earlier this month. And as of right now, we just kind of get together, and the goal is to play some quarterly shows, do some weekends here and there, and then whatever we can do, we're going to do. It was definitely a little bit of a challenge putting the whole record together because, like I said,
Yeah,
we all lived very far apart, but I feel like that helped us because it kind of gave all the songs a chance to breathe
sure.
and you know gave everybody time. I don't know. Do you play music, Brett?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep. I've been in a bunch of bands and done a bunch of touring and all of that, as well as virtual recordings because of COVID. Everybody scattered all over the country. I'm a chronic nomadic mover, so I keep moving from state to state. It seems I've lived in a bunch of different places over the past decade, and so keeping up with my friends that
Yeah.
are stationary, it's like, hey, I'm really glad that we have Google Drive and things like that to share large files, and we can just drop them in our DAWs and keep recording. But I get it. Yeah,
Yeah, that's kind of how we did it. We just, worked off of Google Drive. But yeah, I remember so many times just trying to write songs in a room and like, everybody, wait, stop, hold on, I got to figure this part out. And it's just like, it kind of made it so everybody can kind of have a chance to really figure out what they wanted to put on it. And then to hear like, oh, what's going on with the lyrics? Okay, maybe we need to fix this up, or maybe we need to shorten this or lengthen this. So it really gave us a chance to really figure it out on our own. And then when we went in to record with Andy Clark, we kind of got another perspective in there to be like, oh, this part kind of sucks. Like maybe take this out or make
sure.
this part longer. So I always loved that about the recording process.
I do, and that's as well, and that's a kind of that's really a good, I think, nuance you called out there because I was just thinking about, right, grinding it out in a practice space where we're trying to write something, and it's, I don't know if you're a fan of the Beatles, but they had like that they recently released like this old footage that was canned in a basement for 50 years and it just came out, and the majority of it is like Ringo just noodling on the drums waiting for Paul
Yep.
and John to figure it out, or whatever. And to me it's like that's so much of how I felt band practice would go sometimes when you're trying to write. It's like either everybody's forcefully trying to get their ideas all out at the same time, and then everybody's trying to hurry up and get their parts together so that you have some sort of semblance to keep moving forward. But then, to your point, right? Like during COVID and just through the gift of being able to record remotely with others, I've been able to, right, do the exact same thing. It's like, I can just kind of loop this and play this for 4 hours if I'd like to, and it's not going to bother
Absolutely.
anybody. It's
Yeah.
wonderful. Yeah.
Completely. I'll take it back to the Bruce Springsteen. They did I guess it was 2010 probably, or 2011. They did The Promise, the documentary of the, making of the river. And
Sure.
they just sat there and Bruce had Max wailing on the drum like for hours at end, like being like, that's not the sound. That's not the sound. And just like, what the fuck do you want?
Right. Right. No,
So
that's cool
it's
that
cool.
you got it together though. So how did that so is the songwriting genesis kind of more so on you with the guitar and lyrics and vocals to start, and then everybody kind of shapes it around it, or how did you approach that on this one?
So with this one, it was, it didn't start that way. With every other record, we always kind of got into a room and somebody had like a little bit of an idea and we kind of jammed it out. With this one, I would kind of send some rough riffs around, things like that, and then I would go to Brian's because he's only about an hour and 15 minutes away from me. And we would jam out for a Saturday on like 3 or 4 songs and do like a rough recording of things. We'd make like a loose structure.
Yep.
And then I would send it out to Dave and Chris, and they would kind of put their parts on top of it. And then I would come back and I would, drop some vocals on it, things that I'm thinking of. And then we would get together over a weekend and work on like 6 of the songs, or maybe just 3, depending on how many we had together. So it was really, a step at a time process. And it was cool to actually get into a room and be like, this isn't working at all, or yeah, this is awesome. Maybe we've got to try and do this. Because I think for the record overall, I probably had about, maybe it was 16 different song ideas. And, some of them I kind of worked out on acoustic guitar and vocals, like from beginning to end, like, and put together a loose structure before I even went to Brian.
Yep.
This was one of those that I kind of had just pieces, and Brian and I kind of pieced together the structure, and then we sent it off to Dave and Chris. And I actually, wrote the lyrics, as I was, demoing some vocals on it, just because I really wanted that like stream of consciousness, just feel it out. What sounded good, what felt good to my ears when we were doing it. And then over time, you change a word here and there, you change the kind of vibe of it, or, the way the backups kind of felt. So it was really a step-by-step process. It was cool.
Got it. And then ultimately, so, okay, for the recording then, ultimately, like the final recording process, did everybody come together to go into the studio, or was it again like a, hey, I'll send you my bass tracks and you just drop them into the mix with whoever's mixing it?
No, so we did like we did some pretty good demos on our own.
Mm-hmm.
And then, when it was time to go and record with Andy in Philadelphia, we kind of got an Airbnb, and
Okay.
we went and, stayed right down the road from the studio for about, I think it was either 6 or 7 days, and just kind of, did the thing. This was a really cool experience because Andy had us all play live at the same time when we were doing drums,
Yeah.
which is different than traditional. Usually Brian would just, have the click track going, and I would either be playing a scratch track with him. But on this record, all 4 of us played everything live. And then we went back and redubbed, the bass, the 2 guitars, and put the vocals in. But it was cool because we really got to get our parts down, which we, for the most part had after like spending so much time with them. But it was a cool process. It really felt like being a band,
Yeah.
which is what it should.
Absolutely. And what's the name of the studio you recorded at?
We recorded at Retro City Studios with Andy Clark.
Got
And
it.
we've known Andy for, I mean, I met him in 2007. He's from Hamilton, New Jersey. And I played with his old band, The Ruining, and then, I'm sorry, not The Ruining. Oh, wait. The Ruining. Yes, it was The Ruining. My apologies. His first band was The Ruining that we played with like years ago. And then he was in a band called Luther that we played a lot with. And, I've known Andy for a long time, and we trusted his guidance. He's done some great stuff. He's put out some like awesome records, put some good work in. So it was fun.
No, that is cool. That's good. So I'll make sure to mention Andy in his studio as well in any social posts and things like that, just to kind of
Thank you.
share it around. So I see again that this came out. So, okay. So this is part of the record, Petty Relics,
Yes.
released October 17th. Independently released. Do you have a label putting this out? How are you approaching that?
Yes, this is being put out by Black Numbers,
Okay.
which is our guitarist Dave's label. We've done everything that Banquets has done for the most part has been put out on Black Numbers. We did a vinyl release that's been held up in Canada for the last week, so it should be here any day. Customs and all that. So the records are getting here in a couple days, and then I have to send out several hundred records over the weekend. So that should be fun. But people have been very patient with us, so we appreciate that.
Definitely, definitely. No, that's great. And then is there, again, I'm just kind of thumbing through your Bandcamp spot. Where is the best place for people to find? Your website is where all your merch is. All right, cool. I was just wondering, like, is that kind of, if anyone's trying to find Banquets and where to get a hold of you and where to get your music and where to stay up to date, is the best place to go to the Banquets HQ website, or is it
Yeah, the Banquets
Instagram?
HQ website is pretty much, we try to put everything on there. It serves as the store. I believe it links right to Bandcamp, and you could listen to everything on Bandcamp. You could listen to everything on all the streaming services. We
Sure.
do most of our social media is our Instagram, just because that is such, social media is a tiring thing nowadays, but it's a necessity.
Yes. Yeah.
um, you know, first and foremost, it's Instagram, and then I think that gets filtered to the Facebook, and then
Right.
I'm going to call it Twitter because it's really Twitter, and I will not honor the the terrible name like X, but
Exactly.
you know, and then it filters to there. I think there's also Blue Sky. I don't know if we have
Oh,
a Blue
sure.
Sky. I'm not in
Okay.
charge of that,
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough. No, that's
but for the
cool.
most part, banquetshq.com is the easiest way to find everything.
Okay, great. And then I see that you have a show coming up at Gold Sounds in Brooklyn, New York on December 12th.
Yes, so we're doing a little weekend. We're doing Brooklyn on December 12th
Okay.
with Tired Radio and Heavy Lag and Original Sharks. And then the next night, we're playing uh, a part time PR fest down in Philadelphia at Orleans.
Cool.
And that should be a good one too, with bands like the Carolyn. Who else is playing that one? Jeez. Oh, Brackish is playing, Choked Up. So it should be a really fun show.
That's awesome. And so then you were saying, as everybody's kind of scattered about outside of that, it sounds like that's kind of release show. Is that sort of the celebratory release show kind of weekend thing, or is
Um,
different
it's
events
kind of
happening?
Yeah, so Kevin, who does our
Yeah.
PR, is putting on the part-time PR fest,
Yep.
and he asked us to play that before. I guess it was even before we announced our reunion show back in August, and we said yeah, and the goal is to kind of like, all right, if we're gonna do the one show, we might as well do another show. We haven't played Brooklyn since 2016, so that should be fun. I don't want to call it a record release like weekend or anything like
Okay.
that.
Fair.
We're just kind of getting together and doing these shows. They should be fun. I don't think we were going to plan to do any kind of celebratory record release thing. I think we were just going to get together and play some shows. I believe in the spring we have some other stuff lined up. I think we'll be doing a Jersey show possibly again then, maybe Massachusetts. So it all depends on just the logistics of everything. Right
Sure.
now we're looking at an early spring for our next shows. We're taking it all in stride. We're old men, so don't want to break a hip out there.
No, I certainly get all that. Got it. No, that makes sense. So, yeah, because my next questions are, so is there any plan of a week or two, kind of a run any direction from any point in the United States? But it doesn't sound like it. It sounds
Yeah.
like the quarterly
Well,
thing.
I think we are doing things like that.
Oh, cool.
In the as we get further out. So I'm a teacher, so it's kind of tough to take time off during the year. It always was. So we were always, doing weekend warrior stuff. Here and there, we do like a 3 week thing, or we do like a 1 week, thing out to the Midwest. So it all depends. It depends on everybody's schedule and what's going on. But we're planning some things for the summer. Planning on doing some different festivals here and there. So
Awesome.
it all depends how things line up and everybody's availability, and just overall what's going on in our lives. Because this is for fun, and we'll see what we can do. And it is with all hope that people care that we're doing this. And from the response that we've gotten, it's like, it's been very rewarding that people do care. And it makes us, I'm humbled to say the least that, anybody's listened to this record at all. And that I'm doing this podcast with you now. I mean, this is very cool. we were never a big thing. We always did this for fun, and to hear that people are, listening and it means something to them, it really makes it all worth it. That this was, because honestly, when you write music, you should be writing it for yourself first. I mean, this is a thing that's like, it's a gift to be able to do this.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
For me, it's a very, yeah. I mean, obviously the obvious. I mean, I'm expressing myself through it, so there's this catharsis that happens for me, and this expulsion of whatever it is that I got to get out while I'm doing it. But at the same time, yeah. I mean, I want to write songs that I want to hear too. So
Yeah.
I
I
want to
mean,
write what I want to play. That's fun. That feels good. That energizes me or moves me in the direction that I'm feeling that I want to go in on this one. S-
exactly. And when you
So
can meet some people that like kind of come together and they make it just, even more than just the sum of its parts, it's
yeah.
like that's something amazing. I mean, if you can enjoy what somebody else is doing, like, complimenting what you do with, that's like that's something special.
I agree. I agree. It feels like lightning in a bottle when it happens, and it's just so. I find that to be such a rare dynamic to come across. Like that, if once you find it and you got it, like good for you, and
Yeah.
and so grateful that you do because I've had it and I've had it slip away, and it's really then it takes decades, and you may not ever find it again, or you do in a different way. But no, that's all. Yeah, I love hearing all that. So what I'd like to do though is kind of go back a bit to where, like, when did Banquets officially form, and is the lineup stayed the same?
So the band actually formed in, I want to say it was late 2009.
Okay,
I had been playing in a band called Let Me Run for a few years that I'd started, and then I kind of left like mid tour and came home and was just like, I'm kind of like done with music for a little bit. I want to focus on teaching and stuff like that because, I went for it, like left my teaching gig and everything, and just
sure.
it was kind of like, this is tough. Like I had a routine. Like I'm a creature of habit.
Yep.
So I came home, and Dave sent me some of the songs that he and Chris and our old drummer Pete had been working on. We were like, hey, you want to jam on this? And got together with them and we had a good time. And we did a 7-inch and then the first record. Uh, and then after that, Pete was kind of like, this is taking on more time than I can really allow with my career and stuff. So he was like, I'm gonna step aside. And then our friend Brian joined, and Brian's been in so many bands, from the New Brunswick area, and Outsmarting Simon and Mother Night. And he said, yeah, I'll jam with you guys. And from that point, it was just like we just had a great time together, and just the way things kind of meshed together were great. We did, I want to say three. Yeah, we did 3 records now with Brian, including the new one. So Brian joined in 2012, I think it was.
Okay, got it. And then, so what happened after Spit at the Sun, where things needed to go on pause?
Yeah. So before we even started working on Spit at the Sun, um, we had, I think it was 2 songs that we had already like written and everything just on the side. And, I was like, oh, let's take, let's take these 2 songs and just do a 7-inch, because at the time Dave had been talking about moving to Nashville, and Chris was definitely talking about moving out of New York City to, God knows where. I think he was thinking of moving to Texas then. And just we had all been in, I had gotten married a few years before, and I know Chris had just gotten married, and Dave started a relationship where that was leading to marriage. Brian was doing that, and it was getting too tough to do the weekend grind, because we were playing, nearly every weekend, going on Friday night and getting back late Sunday night. It was taking a lot. So
Sure.
we said, you know what, this is just taking on too much. Let's just hit a pause. And at the time, we didn't think we were going to get back together, and we said like, yep, this will be our final show, and let's just get these songs done. And at the, I was like, oh, maybe we'll do a 7-inch with these 2 songs. And it was like, nah, let's just do a whole record. We got these 2 songs. We can knock out a record. And, so we recorded that. And then we played our final show in, I think it was February of 2016. So, and, that felt good. I got to sell the van finally and didn't have that parked in front of the house. That was nice.
Yes.
The neighbors were stoked. Brian's neighbors were excited because we weren't just whittling around and playing music all day. And,
sure. No, that's cool. And then it's cool that you all kind of figured out coming back together. So if you said it, I think I missed it. So how did this then reconnect? So, I mean, I know after the hiatus, when did it, and I don't know if you already said this, and if you did, I apologize. But I thought it was something about you and acoustic at a table writing songs and writing the lyrics and kind of making that all happen, but then just sending it. Oh, I think that's what you said. Then you were sending it, I think, to Brian,
so
right?
Initially we were going to do the fest in 2020.
Awesome.
And I think what happened was we were at Brian's wedding and I made a joke about playing like a Ramones cover set or something. Because I was like, wouldn't it be funny if we played Beat on the Brat, and we made him dance with his wife to it? And then from there, it was like, just joking back and forth, like, oh,
Sure.
maybe we should do a show at Fest or whatever. So we booked a show for the Fest and we got together and practiced. And then 2 weeks later, the whole thing with COVID and the shutdown and all that stuff happened. So we're like, okay, let's see what happens. And of course, Fest was canceled in 2020. And then in 2021, we were still scheduled to play, and it got to be like September. And in New Jersey, we were just getting back into the classroom, but it was like everybody's masked up. We've got plastic partitions on like the desks that would knock over anytime I walk by them.
Sure.
It was just like the most, the craziest type of circumstances. And I'm like, I can't in good conscience go over a weekend and play a big festival down in Florida and come back and teach like these second graders, you know what I mean? I was just like, the anxiety was like ramped through the roof between that. And then I know that Brian was dealing with stuff too at the time. And we're just like, let's put a pause on it. And, it was just one of those situations where it's like, I don't want to drag anybody along. Like, let's just put a pin in it for the moment. And, we were supposed to practice that weekend anyway before Fest. So we still got together and we're like, fuck it. Let's just jam. Let's just play whatever songs. And then I think at that practice at Hellhound Studios in Rahway, I was just like, oh, here's a little thing I was working on. And we started writing, one of the first songs, and it was cool. And we were just like, hey, let's just write some songs for a while. And, between that time and to today, it was just like, a lot of almost starts and then definite stops and almost starts and definite, we all have responsibilities. So
sure,
things popped up and got in the way. And then it was just like, okay, this is happening. All right. So to be here today, to be like, oh man, we played a show. It was awesome. We did this record. Like, this is cool. So, small steps.
Definitely. Got it. No, it's really cool. It's really interesting to hear. And I totally, so much of kind of what you described dynamically with the band and how you guys have kept it together or come back together. I've had a lot of experiences with that myself, with just kind of reforming with old friends and let's start writing again, and I kind of keep seeing some of that, pop around the socials of other bands that were favorites of mine back in the 90s that are kind of coming back together. I'm like, wow, I didn't expect this 30 years later, but it's cool to see, how all that's happening. So, no, that's awesome, man. So I guess, is there anything else specifically you want to talk about the song Goodbye Before You Go, that we haven't chatted about yet?
I'm not sure that there is. I mean, I just hope that people can find, their own meaning in it. If you want to look deeper into it and read the word there, every word that's in there has some sort of meaning to me, but hopefully people can just, find their own meaning. Hopefully they check it out and find out that it is, like I said, a 6 out of 5 star song, 6 out of 5 star record.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great.
It's felt good to make. So
Cool. Well, then let's do this. Let's take a quick break and then let's come back and find out what else you're working on, what else the other guys in the band are working on, and anything else we want to talk about from there. Sound good?
yeah, sounds great.
Cool. All right, everybody hang tight. We'll be right back. We are back with Travis from Banquets. We were chatting about the song Goodbye Before You Go and all things about the record and the band and what they're doing and this and that. But so I just want to make sure we pull it all back together so it makes sense to the listener. What we're talking about, where it's available, and how people can find you. So again, Goodbye Before You Go. What's the name of the record that it's on?
Petty Relics.
All right. And this just came out, right?
Yes, this came out October 18th, I think, October 17th,
Okay.
the Friday, whatever that Friday was. It's out. It's available everywhere. I preferably listen to Apple iTunes because that's my subscription. Unfortunately, we have to pay some sort of overlord, but it is available on Bandcamp as well, on Tidal, on Spotify as well. I'm trying to think where else. Oh, Orchard Music did put it up on YouTube, which is a great place to listen. It's kind of like the Yuletide log with you get to just see the album cover. It doesn't move or anything, but
Oh, sure. Nice.
Great visual.
So I see full digital album. Is there any plans of releasing a physical version?
Yes. So we did a pre-order and the record should be here on Thursday. They've been
that's what's in
delayed.
Canada?
They've
Got
been
it.
delayed at the border for since October 14th. They've just been sitting, and I'm looking at the FedEx thing saying, "Oh, it's delayed at custom." Like, God damn it!
Right.
But
Get us our
it'll
records.
be here. It'll be here in a couple days, and then I got to box them up, send them out. We've been very fortunate. Many people have purchased already, and I think there's literally probably 10 records left for us to sell at shows. Aside from our 4 copies and whatever else we have left. So if you're interested in purchasing, go to banquetshq.com, and I think there's a few that are still left there. It still says pre-order because I don't have the records at my house yet to send out, but they will be here soon. So
Got it. No, that's perfect. And then again, you said, so it's on all streaming services. People can buy the digital album from Bandcamp, but the physical record through banquetshq.com. And Instagram is the best place to keep up and kind of keep track of y'all. Is that right?
Yes, there's always reels and all the other stuff that we do on Instagram. I refuse to do the thing where you talk to your listeners like a live interview on, hey, we've got a show coming up this Friday. We hope to see you. I mean, I'm saying that now. However, I know I will do it soon.
Sure.
And I'll crack open a fortune cookie and I'll have the name of all the bands and I'll show it. But I don't know yet.
Oh, that's funny.
I might do an unboxing video where I open up the records and, act like I cut my hand horribly, something, I'll try and be creative with it. Yes, exactly. We have to make it funny, but traumatic as well,
That's awesome. So yeah, everybody follow Banquets at Banquets HQ on Instagram is where you can see that and get all the updates from them. But Travis, man, thank you so much for taking some time again to talk with me about this. It's been super fun chatting with you, learning about the band, the record, and I'm excited for your couple of shows you got coming up and getting the physical copies of your record is super great. And next time, when you guys have something new that you're recording or you want to come on and talk about again, hit me up, man, because I'd love to have you back.
Absolutely, Brett. It's been so great talking to you, and thank you for sharing part of your story with me. I appreciate it. Where do you live right now, Brett?
I live actually just outside of Atlanta, Georgia, in a small town called Decula that's on the way towards South Carolina.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we're going to try and get down there. So I will, keep in touch with you.
Yeah,
and,
please do.
We'll see. That'd be cool.
Awesome.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Brett. Appreciate you.
You bet. Thanks, Travis.
Three Crows Club presents B-Side Breakdown.
All right, and that wraps up another episode of the B-Side Breakdown. I want to thank Travis Omilian from the band Banquets for coming on to talk about the song Goodbye Before You Go. In the background, you're listening to a song called Unrest by the band Kind Skies. If you like what you hear, please go back and listen to the previous episode because that's what it was all about. Up next, we have the band Too Late But Still with their song Feedback City, which I'll give you a taste of at the end of this episode. I want to thank Adam Coulong and Carrie Bozel for helping me put together the jingle you hear at the beginning and the end of this episode. Please subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcast. Can't thank you enough for your ongoing support. Stay safe out there, and we'll catch up on the next one. Thanks.
Fighting a bed ring that says Carpe Diem.